Boom, go, boom, go. Guna fam, what's good? We're back with a fan view by Nqobile, our resident here, after the 1-0 Burnley loss at home with fans. But I don't know if they were there, but we'll say they were there. So I don't know, Nqobile, welcome back, to the therapy session. Want to know how you're doing, how's things going after the Burnley defeats.
Yeah, man. I've kind of. I was a lot. Actually, I wasn't even angry. I think I was more concerned than anything. Because now you're worried. It's not even like you're angry at the guy's performance and anything. It's just now you're like genuinely concerned. Like, because you just can't see where the next goal or the next victory will come from. And especially because like Arteta's persisting with the same players that are seeming to be underperforming. I'm also worried for him because I reckon he's still a decent coach. Look, I reckon he's going to be a good coach. I've always known that. Look, he's still young. He's only been in the job for a year now, and I said of that, 3 months was under lockdown. He barely did anything. So I'm expecting him to make mistakes. And yeah, but the issue is that he doesn't seem to be learning quick from his mistakes. To me, it seems like he's trusting the wrong players, and also it's just some people are just trying to point out that there's double standards in how he's treating some of the players. He seems to have his favorites. And look, there could be some merits in that, but also you could also turn around and say, like, I look at the Pepe Xhaka thing, and people saying that he didn't chastise Xhaka as much as he did Pepe, but you could turn around and actually say that he learned from his previous mistake, in terms of when he went out and called out Pepe, that wasn't really the right thing to do. And then now in this instance, he's kind of learned from that and reeled it in. Look, we don't know whether that's the reason why he's gone that way, or if it's because he's got his favorites and Xhaka is one of his favorites, and he's kind of more protective around him. And yeah, and that's the thing, because he's so new, we don't really have a big enough sample size for us to say this is how. So like Jose Mourinho, you know how Jose Mourinho reacts to certain situations. With this guy, he's facing a lot of these for the first or second time, and that's is that you can't, no pattern has really developed for us to be able to actually be able to give him the benefits of the doubt in certain instances. To say that, look, I think this is what he was trying to say or do or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I mean that is a concern, because I don't really see us, even if we were to get this guy fired, I don't see them replacing him with someone who we would deem, as much as people talk about like you'll get your Allegri's, your Maurizio Sarri's, whatever. I don't see our board going out and forking 12 million pounds for a year for a coach. We all know that Arteta was the cheap, obviously like half of the price of those guys, and you know how our coach thinks. I'm sorry, how our club currently thinks. And one of those coaches will come in and want a squad overhaul immediately. And there would be, and also the board, I feel, wouldn't be able to control them as much as like a fiery personality, as much as a novice manager that is Mikel Arteta. So yeah, so I don't honestly see them getting a star brand when it comes to a manager. I reckon they'll get a middle of the road, run of the mill young manager who's probably relatively unproven. It'll be probably a highly underwhelming appointment if we had to replace Arteta. And I think that the board and the management, senior managers, kind of realize that, and they're probably going to stick with him for now. I reckon if he loses the Brighton game, that's when he'll probably really come under pressure. I think in the next 3 games, it's kind of a free hit for him. He obviously mustn't get embarrassed in those games, but I reckon that no one is expecting us to win the next 3 games, even if we can walk away from those with like two draws and a loss, or any form of points actually in those 3 games. I think guys will, and obviously seeing progress. So points with like progress I think he'll then be able to weather the storm. It's if he loses the next three, or maybe only gets 1 point out of the next three, and then loses to Brighton. That's when I think really then serious question. The management might be forced to then pull the trigger on him. But I think they're very reluctant to pull the trigger on him at the current moment. Yeah.
This is kind of what happened last season, what transpired around this time, that they made the decision and maybe, they don't want to get burnt again, fire again.
Yeah.
It helped us. But I just want to go back to the game just a little bit and look, just a few points there. Look, the first half was a bit dry, and then the second half was painful. So it was a tale of two halves. But did we ever look like we were going to win the match? And did we ever look like we were going to score? And
yeah,
is it just?
I think we actually came out. Yeah, we came out from halftime. I think we looked on the much better side. We looked good. We created about 3 or 4 chances, if I recall correctly. We were fluid. We were moving the ball a whole lot quicker. We were looking good. I mean, look, I don't know maybe how long we would have been able to sustain that pressure until it petered out. But at that moment in time when Granit Xhaka got his red card, we were by far the stronger side, and we looked like the breakthrough was going to come, because Burnley were not offering anything. They were barely getting the ball past the halfway line. If you actually think about that first 15 minutes, but it was relentless pressure at that time. And I think they were just willing to just sit back.
Such a good spell.
They were willing to just. Sorry?
I said even the commentator said is like we were in such a good spell just before the Granit Xhaka.
Yeah. So it was. So I think, and it was starting to look positive, and I think that we probably would have gotten away with a 1-0 win, because as I'm saying that Burnley, for me, weren't barely threatened. And yeah, so we were looking good until obviously that moment of madness from Granit Xhaka, one of our so-called leaders, and he cost his coach, to be quite honest. And I hope it's not the same guy who's going to lead to a sequence of events in getting the coach fired. I mean, his substitution and and flipping off of the fans last time led to was pretty much the beginning of the end for Unai Emery. I hope this isn't pretty much the beginning of the end then for Arteta, sparked by the same guy. But yeah, I think what he did was inexcusable. That was a straight red. I think there were no arguments about that. We were lucky to stay to even for El Nani to stay. I thought he was going to get sent off as well with that hands to the face in that corner. So yeah, I think all in all, we were unlucky. Obviously, Aubameyang scoring in his own net, because that was pretty much it. Also, they didn't really threaten us outside of their own goal, right? If you actually think about it. So yeah, it's one of those where on another day we probably could have gotten all 3 points, maybe at worst a point. But yeah, as it would happen, just a moment of madness from us costing the coach.
It was just an unlucky result, because of the way it played out. But in retrospect to our form, this is now culminating into a very rough patch in terms of now people want to out and changes. They want to just see. So you think it's obviously we take that result alone, it wasn't too bad, as you said, we were unlucky. But now, because it's 3 wins in a row at home, this just becomes even worse. Insult to injury.
As I said, obviously it's still a bad result because we lost, right? So, but I'm just saying that looking at how we played compared to the previous games, I think there was a slight improvement. On top of the 3 previous home games that we've lost, there was a slight improvement on that. But yeah, I think it's still at the end of the day, I think the pressure is, we lost and the pressure is still on the manager. And for me, it's just that he's not willing to, what my concern is, he's not willing to change things up. And I think if anything, the one thing that most fans are happy about is that we will at least get to see, or Arteta's hand's going to be forced a bit to try something different, in that middle of the park in the right back position, and I'm hoping that he can actually make the right decisions then, and the players that are actually available that we've been calling out for will actually step up to the plate and perform. Because if they now do come in and we still get the same results, then I think it's going to be pretty much the end of the road. If you don't see a remarkable improvement in the fluidity of how we play, in the mobility, in our mobility and athleticism, then that's when I think obviously then the real alarm bells are gonna start sounding. So I'm just hoping that with this, Arteta is going to be a bit bolder and just try out a few other things, drop some of the players that aren't performing, and stick in some of the guys that have turned in some pretty decent performances, albeit against fairly weak opposition, but at least they've got a bit more confidence and they might actually be willing to try things. And obviously, yes, bring in some of those more mobile players into our midfield, which I think would help solve some of our defensive problem and our creativity problems, in terms of that they'll be able to move the ball quicker and get up and down the pitch and at least add bodies into those right areas of the pitch when needed.
Yeah, yeah. No, sorry, I was smiling earlier when you were talking about your point, because everybody, the only positive from Burnley was Xhaka and Bellerin are missing for the next game, and he's forced to change. His hand is forced, and we've been asking for it. So we just got to wait and see, as you said, like change in personnel, bring people on, more energy, more legs. Just try it out. We're losing either way. So, and the thing that I was going to ask you before we get into chat a bit about Southampton is, I know we talk about Arteta and his inexperience, but now, in terms of Sunday's game, is it now the squad is now highlighted even more? Because we knew that the personnel wasn't good enough, but is it now that we see that maybe it's not entirely the coach, because
it's not, obviously.
No, go ahead, fine.
It's not entirely the coach. I mean, at the end of the day, the players, it works hand in hand, right? The coach is responsible for picking the players, but the players are responsible for putting the performance on the field. So, it's two sides of the same coin, and to some extent, the players are letting the coach down, and there is a lack of quality, obviously, in our squad. Is it 50? Are we the 15th best side? Obviously, results will say yes. The table doesn't lie. But with the players we got, we severely underperforming. We're not on paper. We're not a side that should be 15th. We shouldn't be top 4. Yes, I agree. We probably are on 7th, 8th. That's where I think our squad is. So yes, to say that your squad that has the potential to be 7th or 8th, 5th or 6th if you're really shooting the lights out, but you're 15th, shows you that the squad is performing way below the par, and it is the coach's job to make sure that he selects the right players, make sure that gets the squad motivated to at least perform to the best or even at par with their abilities. And that's the one thing I can maybe say that, look, then the coach needs to look at himself, was that, is he getting currently the best out of his players now that the honeymoon phase is over? Is what he's saying, do they still believe in what he's saying? And so it's, for me, that is what, so for me, I think that's my main concern, is that some of the guys might have reverted back to their old ways, some of those senior players that have been the bad apples in the squad. Obviously, he hasn't covered himself in glory in some of the decisions he's made on and off the field, which might have culminated in what we're seeing now. Because at the moment, it doesn't seem like the squad is pulling in the right direction. I think there's a lot of unhappiness amongst certain individuals and amongst the squad. You're hearing about leaks coming left, right, and center. You're seeing some of the players, what they're putting out on social media. And the guys you can see it in the body language also, and the effort that some of the guys are giving, that something is not quite right there. And yeah, and sometimes, I mean, it is quite difficult, and we've seen it with our club, to get rid of 5 to 6 players, whereas it's easy to get rid of one coach, and that's the route that most clubs end up going, even though actually you might find it's the players that are the bigger problem, but they will fire the coach to make sure they get almost that bounce post firing of the coach, get the results at least going the right way, and then start culling some of those bad apples, or seeing if the new coach can deal with those and bring harmony back to the squad, or happiness back into the squad. So yeah, and that's and I think that's the only reason why they will go. The board's hand will kind of be forced by the results of the next 4 games. And if Arteta, I reckon if he wins one of those games, he's definitely staying for the rest of the year. If he loses all 4, which is a big possibility, he's definitely gone. And I reckon if especially the Brighton one is probably, for me, as I say, the most important. The Chelsea one, I think a lot of people have written off. Everton maybe as well. Tomorrow's game also, I reckon, is a free hit. But for me, I think the Brighton game is the one where really the alarm bells will probably start sounding, and the management. I think they've given him the next 3 games as a free hit, and then the Brighton one is the one where really the alarm bells will start going off, and the guys will probably start pulling the trigger.
Yeah, it's a tough few weeks for him, and I think he has a lot of decisions to make. And then, yeah, as you were talking about Southampton, so going into Southampton, you know, I always ask you this: what does he need to do? And you kind of always just say the same thing, but there was one point that you alluded to was that even if we get a new coach, you don't seeing us doing better than expected, but that comes down to directly what you're talking about. It's easier to get rid of a coach than the players, because you just putting in new people and they get excited, and then once it dies off, the player is still the same player. He just had a good run. He has positive attributes at certain factors. But for Xhaka, he performed, now he dropped. He has this. We've seen this a lot with him. But going into Southampton, no Xhaka, no Bellerin. What do you expect to see, and realistically, what do you think is going to happen? You know what I mean? Because
if I was Arteta, I would treat this as a big game against the top 4 rival away. Honestly, I reckon he should go 5 at the back. Make sure we're solid, we don't concede. I reckon if he walks away with a point in this game, he would have. I think that's a satisfactory result given the circumstances. So for me, I think you should look to do that and look to hit the guys on the counter. And yeah, because as I was saying, we are going in as the underdog here. Obviously, I'd like to see maybe an Ainsley in there. I know Reece is injured and probably Pepe's back. I'd like to see Pepe though, in this one. Maybe I reckon probably go with like a 5 at the back, in Cedric at right back, because obviously he's playing against his old club, so I think he'll be quite motivated to prove them wrong. Then go with the holding, Gabriel, Tierney at left centre back, and then have Ainsley doing that auxiliary role, which he does quite well in playing left wing back and then shifting into the middle, to create that extra man in midfield when we're transitioning forward. And then go Sabas, obviously El Neni, and then I'll probably stick with Laka for now, but it's a tough one whether you drop Laka, play Uba up front and play Saka on the left, or play Uba on the left with Lacazette up front, because I still think we will need some form of focal point, even though yes, I mean Lacazette is really also not performing at the moment. All the chances are falling to him and he's spurning them. Solda play is not really the greatest, but it's better than Aubameyang's, in my opinion. If you play Aubameyang, then you'd have to go with a 3 in midfield with a 10, which I think Arteta is quite reluctant to do. I don't see him pushing Ceballos into the 10 role and adding Ainsley Maitland-Niles into the middle. I don't see him doing that. I see him probably going with a 5 at the back and trying to nullify Southampton's stats, because they are a slick football side going forward. So yeah.
Okay, and no Willian, huh?
Nah, no, Willian. I've seen enough of Willian for now. He needs to
chill.
he needs to eat a bit of bench. Maybe come off the bench as an impact sub.
I think he might be more effective that way. I'd like to see him try it, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, I think I'd want to see Pep. I'd like to see Pep in this game. I think he is like our biggest chance creator at the moment. And our biggest goal, well, like chances and goals created. He's probably the highest in the team. Has got the highest stats in the team. So, and he just brings that X factor, right, in terms of that unpredictability. Yes, obviously he fluctuates up and down in terms of consistency, but he is the only player who's probably got the ability to beat a guy and to force opposition players into pulling. You can pull opposition players into positions they don't want to be and force them to engage them and thereby creating space. You know, so yeah, I reckon he should get a crack now that he's back from his suspension. I think he's learned his lesson, and I think he'll be firing. He'll be looking to really make a point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I really hope so, because it'll be nice to see a top corner from him. It's been a while.
Yeah.
One of those. But like, just last few before we have to go, man. But Southampton is a tough match, and they're actually playing really well right now. It's surprising. So I think it's all odds against us. Plus, we have no fans at the Emirates. UK is going into, or London's going into a lockdown. So they really need to come out at all stops. But going into this game, what does he need to do to build these guys' confidence? And then also you can touch on if Arteta lasts till Jan, what needs to be done in Jan, and how much can really be achieved in Jan for him to last till the end of the season. You know?
Not much can be done in Jan. I reckon at most we'll get 2 players. Not even. I reckon we'll probably only get 1 signing in Jan. We're hearing that Torreira might come back from his load, so I don't know how true those rumors are. Which means that there's going to be 1 more player in the squad that might need to drop out or not be registered. You know, so I'm hoping that that's not true in that sense, because it's gonna compound the issues that Arteta's got at the moment. So I reckon he probably will need to try and get an offensive midfielder. I think that should be the key target for this window. And then after that, it's just going to be about seeing the rest of the season out. Try to finish as high up the table as you can. And now it's just going to be about all those deadwood players that are obviously still sitting there, running out their contracts, seeing all of those contracts roll off, which will obviously free the wage bill, free squad space as well for us to then go in and sign in a few players. Then I reckon, since that's Saliba, they're not playing Saliba at the moment, because I would have liked to have at least seen him before making a call. I reckon that he needs to get a proper right-sided centre back who's athletic, because that's one of the areas we're struggling. We're carrying 2 immobile players in the core of our squad, which are Holding at centre back and Xhaka at centre mid, and you can't afford to do that. If you're only carrying 1, then it's fine. You can kind of cover for that. But now you've got 2 guys who are frightened to death of players running in behind them, and you've seen the trouble that we always get into once it's a 3v2 or whatever, or 4v3, and one of the guys that are being attacked is one of those guys or both of them. You know, it's always your heart's in your mouth kind of stuff. So yeah, I think, and let's be realistic. We're not gonna go out and splash Sekash. We all know how Arsenal are. Now it's just about using the resources we have and identifying the right players and making sure that we get the right players into the squad. And that's kind of what the disappointment was with this past one, is that we did a lot of good work in terms of getting Partey and Gabriel, but we kind of undid that with, for me, signing a Cedric who seems like we're not using. If you're going to get a guy like him in, he should be starting or at least pushing Bellerin to be, to start. Not at the moment where he's not even making the match day squad when we are playing. So for me, signings like that, signings like Willian, I said it before, it's the length of the contract rather than the signing of the player, which was disappointing for me. And yeah, giving contracts to guys like Mario, guys who haven't really proven themselves, extensions to Luis. Also, you can justify that, but those are the kind of things you can call into question. So we need to stop making signings like that and make sure that when we do sign a guy, we've done our homework and we're starting guys that are gonna come in and make the impact and improve the squad immediately. And yeah, so we need to make sure that we do that. And I don't really trust the guys that we've got look, there's a bit of hope, as I said, because they did sign 2 quality players. But I still don't trust the guys because they still got the ability to sign the other fodder that they signed along with the two quality players. And then in terms of what Arteta needs to do to Moats, I think he just needs to be fair, and play because he said when he rocked up, he said he's going to play guys on their merits and play them according to their form and if they deserve it and whatnot. And at the moment, he seems to be contradicting himself because there's a lot of players who you're looking at and you're asking yourself, why is Ainsley Maitland-Niles not playing? Yes, sure, he's not well, look, he says that he's not a right back or whatever, but then he's included him in his squad as a right back. He came on last week as a right back, or a left back, whenever he's come on. So it's things like that. Why is Xhaka playing? You hear him saying that he's playing well in practice, but has he played well in games? We haven't seen him play well in games in a long time. Willian, why is he still starting every single match when he's failed to produce? The same can be said for Lacazette. Some could even say the same for Aubameyang, but at least Aubameyang has brought some goodwill with some of the performance. His performances have been carrying us for the past 2 years. It's taken a dip now, but obviously some people might start asking the questions about should we maybe take him out just for a game or two, and bring him in as an impact sub, and then just to see, just to build his confidence back up again, maybe that way. And yeah, and then I think that's the issue that the guys seeing is that it's just the inconsistencies and maybe some players that feel they merit a start or when they've come on, they've done well, and then they get overlooked for weeks on end post that. So I think for him to do that, he needs to start sticking to his guns again, moving away from this experienced players that are disappointing him and playing guys based on their merit.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's big calls. You got big calls, and I think you're right. I think now we're seeing the favoritism, and a lot of people have pointed it out. It's like weird, like what Xhaka, but I think you're right with also saying that maybe he learned from the Pepe to Xhaka incident, which is good, but it was just like Willian going overseas and not getting reprimanded, stuff like that. So
yeah, stuff like that. Yeah,
you just have to see, are there Arteta guys? We hope there's not, because we want a full squad and we want all of this kind of camaraderie that we had at the beginning of the season, just after we won the FA Cup. So I don't know. We need to big decisions. He needs to, I don't know, motivate these guys somehow, because we need a huge performance tomorrow, and we need it as fans, as everyone. I don't even know
yeah,
to say. It's like it's hard to even try to be hopeful, but we got to. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think as you said, the next 3 games are crucial for him. I think it's Southampton, Everton, and Chelsea. Obviously, going into Brighton. I think if he can get results there, it'll gain confidence back. I think if we can beat Chelsea, that will be the fire that we need to maybe spur on into next year and be like, look, let's invest, let's see what we can do. But yeah,
And
still,
he's got a League Cup match in between all of that against Man City as well, right? So that's the only other disappointment, is that a lot of people are not pointing out that game counts as one of the games that Xhaka suspended for, I think, if I'm mistaken. So I think Xhaka will be available for the Chelsea match. I stand to be corrected. Or is it after, or is the Man City game post? I think it's next week, it's midweek next week. Or I
yeah,
stand to be corrected, but I'll just double check the fixtures with that's when we play City. So yeah.
yeah, hectic, man. So he might just feature.
Yeah, I was hoping that he'll miss the Chelsea one, and then because I know he'll probably won't play the Man City match, because I think they will probably play a lot of the youngsters in that. It'll pretty much be the Europe.
Yeah, he'll be back for Chelsea if it's included.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hectic. But one last question I forgot to ask, maybe it'll take us off the topic of something depressing. So we drew with Benfica. I don't know, maybe it'll still add to it. We drew with Benfica 32 in Europa. How are you feeling about that team, and that draw?
That's a good squad. That's a good team, one of the best. But I mean, obviously, if you want to go far in these type of tournaments, you're gonna have to face these guys at some stage. It's too early to call because I don't know what type of form we're gonna be in there. I don't know what the injury situation will be like when you get to that stage. So it's a good side. It's a team that I'm looking forward to playing. Obviously, if you took it on current form, you expect us to get walloped. But as I'm saying, you don't know how we're gonna be playing when we get to that stage. And look, they weren't playing that well either at the time. I think they finished second to the group behind Glasgow Rangers, right? So it's not like they were shooting. Look, I think they are second though in the league in Portugal, but it's one of those where it's too early to call. So I'm just hopefully things would have turned around at that time, and we'll be playing some of that slick football again. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the time, and I think it's gonna be a good entertaining match. Sorry, I missed that. I was struggling to you.
They're a tough opponent. You can't take them for granted.
No, you can't. I mean, that's a team that could go all the way and win the tournament, right? A lot of people said that about us before this season. I mean, obviously before the current predicament we find ourselves in as well. So it's two sides that you, on paper, you'd say have got a good chance of making it all the way to the finals. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big clash, the biggest clash probably of the round.
Yeah, no, true. This is a tough clash. They play quick football, quick feet as well, those guys.
Yeah.
You never know what to do next week. But you are right, it is quite early, but I thought I might add it in. It is a bit of news, bit of other news, outside Premier League. What else can we talk about? But Nqobile, thanks so much, man, for giving us your fan reaction for the Burnley match and going into Southampton. Let's hope it's a good one,
Let's hope so, man. We'll chat post that game.
Yeah.
Hopefully the guys can do something. I'm just hoping that the changes that Arteta makes do pan out for him, because I think he's just searching for. When you just start scrambling and you're desperate and you're just searching for anything at the moment. And I'm just hoping this will give some of the enforced changes will give him something to cling on to.
And I feel bad for him. Like everything's against him. I think that's why the club's coming out and like we're backing him. Some fans I don't know the players if there's something in the dressing room, but it's really a lot of pressure for his first 9 months of a manager or first 2 months into his first season, like his first actual starting a season. So it's a shame, but I think that's part of the job, and these are decisions you have to make as you go along. And hopefully he learns from this, and as you said, he's not learning fast enough. So I think a good December into Jan can teach anyone what to do, because it's weird. But yeah, Nqobile, thanks once again. We'll catch you maybe after the game tomorrow, but definitely.
Yeah.
It's me, Kish, and
it's
Nqobile. Guna Cast SA. We out.